Hi. So I'm Alex, and I'm going to talk about how planning needs to be more entrepreneurial. I don't know what Planning 3.0 is, but I agree a lot with what David was saying about sometimes we stick our head up our bums, and sometimes we need to look more at things like structures and how we do things and fall less in love with words and more in love with action. Next slide, please. Aye. This starts for me, I had a bit of a crisis a couple of years ago when there's a quote there, which I'll let you read. And I just had this gnawing feeling about what I did wasn't fulfilling me, actually. And I think the truth is that I'm not as clever as any of you, and I'll talk about why in a minute. But this is for anyone who sometimes has a nagging feeling that what they're doing isn't quite enough in some way, shape or form. And my argument is that there's a lot of confusion about entrepreneurialism. People equate it with taking a risk. And actually, all it is a mindset. And it's a mindset that says that you're going to be accountable for your actions. That's it. And I think in today's world, that is more important than ever. My background is, I started off as an account man. Then I became a strategist working on projects like Google. Then I looked after a department. But in the last 2 years, I've been doing business development. And the key thing that taught me is, it's doing things like buying mobile companies and changing culture internally with that fella there. And it gave me the opportunity to look outside the industry. And I think this video doesn't work, but imagine two people just spinning round and round and round and round. I think a big problem with planning is that we're really, really insular. We always benchmark ourselves against each other. And we talk about how to make work better and what briefs are. But actually, if you look outside the industry, I think you can learn a lot more. And my hypothesis is that we're in a world where outcomes are much more important over inputs. And there's a little cartoon there about the amount of time that we all spend on PowerPoint. And I'd ask you all, how much time do you spend on PowerPoint? And how much time do you spend talking to clients? And how much do they actually use? And I think it's a really important question for planning, because I think we're in love with our own voices a lot of the time. And we're in love with words, and we're in love with talking about things. But what do we actually do? And I think the reason outcomes are really important is if you look at things like executive pay, people are being paid more and more by performance. If you talk about interviews, when you go to interviews, people ask, what have you done? And I think increasingly it's not going to be possible to hide. And I think we hide behind PowerPoint decks. And I think we hide behind account handlers, and we hide behind clients. And I think the value is going out of comms planning. I'm going to come to that. And I think you're not going to be able to hide anymore. We're not going to be hide anymore. But I'm really positive about this, because I think we'll start going, right, it's up to us to make a difference to our client's business. Our only role is to add value to our client's business. And so I think there's a world of opportunity out there. But what it means is, this is a brilliant book by Jonathan Fields, you should all read it. It means facing fear. And it means leaning into uncertainty and doing things you're not used to doing. And I think, God, we're all planners, we're all curious about the world. We need to learn new skills. And I think, I don't know how you feel, but I found myself just not learning. I was doing the same stuff, going to the same meetings, talking and talking over again. I was thinking, how the hell am I going to add value here? And I think the problem is, if you look at our current role, many years ago, marketing became disaggregated from businesses. It became less concerned with things like proposition and pricing, became associated with comms. And marketing directors became seen as flower arrangers, and we've suffered from this. I don't know if you saw the last talk from Alison Hardy recently, but it talked about her day. And in terms of marketing director, it's a really good reminder about how much stuff marketeers have to do to try and transform their business. And we just do comms. And we're actually not a big part in terms of transforming the client's business. And I think, you might disagree with this, but I think increasingly we're strategists for production companies. We like to think that we are adding loads and loads of value, and we're giving loads of important ideas, but I see so many of those fall by the wayside. We don't follow up on them. We don't do the things with real value. We present ideas that are disposable. And strategies that are disposable, when they don't happen, we go, fine, that's someone else's problem, that's not our problem. But I think that's what we do. We're strategists for production companies. Because if you think about how we make money, we sell comms. That's our role in advertising. So even worse, we're salesmen for production companies. We're the people who are the upstream way. We go in with our clever strategies and we sell what we produce, which is comms. And, you know, I'll come later and we've all got to decide what we all want to do as people in this industry. But how I felt was, we're not doing any of this. We're not advising brand owners on how to make more money or save money. And I think it's a massively underutilised resource. I've spent a lot of time around entrepreneurs recently, and they're nowhere near as clever as you, but they do shit. They get stuff done. They create value. They build businesses. And it's a real wake-up call, because we sit and we talk, and I know I keep saying that, and I'm going on and on and on, but I just really look around the room and I go, you've got so much to add in terms of business value, and how much are we really doing that? And this is a massive problem. I don't know what to do about this. But if I said to you, right, I can make a chair for you. I'll make it in 2 days. It'll cost you £2,000 and it'll be brilliant. Or I could make a chair for you. It'll take 6 months. It'll cost 50 grand. We'll have loads of meetings about it. We'll probably fuck it up a little bit. But this is the truth of the industry we're in, right? The most productive thing we can do is have a meeting, because we're paid to take time over things. And you all know how many times you've had brilliant ideas and brilliant ways to solve problems in an afternoon with the right people around the room. It's nuts. I'm only saying this to sort of question things, and I'll come to why in a minute. I think the way that agencies value planners is not helpful either. We tend to really like the revelation, the clever flip, whereas businesses want transformation. We revere thinking over doing. And I do think that over the years, you know, if you think back to when the world was simpler and we used to advise clients on their business, how they can make more money, we used to have meaningful outputs for business. Now I think we're more obsessed with the output of looking clever in meetings. And if I look at the future, I will come to the positive bit, I promise. I think that we're just going to become even more marginalised, because we come from comms agencies, and that means we assume comms the answer. What's the question? Our business sells comms, so that's what we're going to provide. But the thing with marketeers is comms is one way to produce value for a client's business. It's just one way. Increasingly, clients are going to be making business value through experiences. And so I see the growth of experience as a real threat to the comms industry, and I think we need to think about that. So if you look at products and services, these were business problems we used to answer. How do we increase average lifetime value? How do we increase sales? Of course, we still do through comms. But Sky Go, I had a really interesting story about Sky Go. It didn't come near a comms agency. Sky Go had this problem about lifetime value, so what do? They build a product, Sky Go. Without talking to an agency, they decide, right, we can make our customers stickier by targeting it to students, which means families will stay on Sky when it comes up for renewals because their kids are on it. That's really clever, and it has nothing to do with comms. It comes with building an experience which people value. Argos had a problem about increasing sales. Someone identified the problem as when people reserved items, people weren't redeeming them in store. Again, they went nowhere near comms. What did they do? A text and collect system. So all you do is text them a friendly reminder to come to the store. They solved the redemption issue, but not only that, the whole thing was a software layer. And what that did is it connected marketing with operations. And it did things like ping back messages to the warehouse to order more stock, which created operational efficiencies, but also automated marketing messages. So if you bought a football, it might say, right, you bought a football, next time you might want to buy this goal, which is a way to increase cross-sell. But also they sold the data on to, I don't know, Umbro as well, and they're making money. And that has a book value, 97 million quid for Argos. Basically, if they lost that, that would cost the business 97 million pounds. That's business value. And that's really interesting. That's software. And I think increasingly we're moving to the world where advertising is the price you pay for an unremarkable product and service. Now with the social web, you trust your friends much more than you trust brands. But worse than that, you're trusting complete strangers. So I go onto a dishwasher site and I see John from Wigan has said this is good, right? It's mental if you think about it. John from Wigan, I don't know who he is, he says it's good, I go, brilliant, I'll buy that dishwasher. And I think that's a real worry for us because it's bypassing us completely. And I think that increasingly we're going to be investing in products and services, making them brilliant. Obviously in the social web, people are advocating these products. It's about making things people want rather than making people want things. And this is another really scary part, which is we're kidding ourselves. We don't think software is going to do more of our jobs. There's a really good article here by a guy called Mark Anderson about why software is eating the world. And it's just a really nice summary. We obviously know about how the music industry was killed by digital, certainly re-engineered through software. Same thing with the photographic industry. Google basically killed DM. Groupon's killed retail marketing. We're nuts if we don't think that this is happening now. So there's things like, there's crowdsourcing software, like, is it Victus and Spores, which was recently bought by Havas, where you can just basically crowdsource marketing briefs. That's one way. I think it's really interesting that AKQA and publishers are buying digital businesses because they think that the future is about licensing models of software. And that's why they've bought those businesses, because they find new value there. And if you think about it, our creative output is being automated as well. There's things like TBG and all the automated software that updates images and words in real time means that increasingly and increasingly the creative is being done by computers. I know that sounds really sort of deadbeat, but I'm actually really positive about this because I think actually in this world, an outcome-driven world where we have to be utterly accountable, successful planners won't be the cleverest, but the people who take responsibility and implement the things that add real value to clients' businesses. And I think this is a question for all of you. You may know exactly where you are, but I had to ask myself this question. What motivates me? Is it business transformation, brand transformation, or personal transformation? One leads you more towards head of marketing and looking more at business. One absolutely leads you more just simply down the comms route. And the third can lead you to all kinds of places. So, I don't know, I asked myself this question. I'm like, am I interested in business transformation? I think these were questions that, if we're honest with ourselves, we used to talk about with clients a lot. How do you get new customers? How do you get customers to spend more? How do you stop losing customers? How do we become more profitable? How do we create new markets? And I think we're having less and less of those conversations. I don't know if you all agree. Is that true? We're having less of those conversations, getting briefs where they've decided where their source of business is coming from, and we're just doing the comms. And is that a problem? I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's just I think we've got to decide where. It's a very personal decision, actually, all of this, where you want to be. If it's brand transformation, I think it's sometimes, I don't know, does it sadden me? It's like we often present loads and loads of ideas and we present them very disposably. And I think the strategist's job or the planner's job is to identify, no, these are going to be the ones that transform your brand. So I've got a couple of ideas here and I've got no idea how it happened. But I love the example of the toy meerkat, right? Because there's a real business problem there, which is insurance is totally commoditized. How do we get people to go to compare the market? And it's all about intangible value. People don't know how much that's worth. And if you looked at the results of it, it was ridiculous. This is basically the trend of the whole insurance market. And suddenly, as soon as they released the toy, compare the meerkat, that's from Google search trends, it massively outperformed the market. But who did that? Who went and wrote the business plan for that? That's not a comms plan, that's right. How do we get that? What toy manufacturers do we need to partner with? How much does that cost? Do we leave that to clients to do? Isn't that too important in our job? Shouldn't we be writing those business plans and say, right, actually, forget all the comms stuff, let's do that. We're confident that will transform your business, and here's why, and here's the plan, and give us 10 grand, and we'll go and sort through all your myriad of silos, and we'll sort it out for you. Whose job's that? And if you're not good at that, find an account man who is, or find another partner who is, or partner with someone in the organisation who'll do it for you. This is what I mean about being accountable. Don't just hide behind other people. I don't want to take too long in terms of time, but there's a couple of examples here from Droga 5, which I just think are really beautiful transformational ideas. One's from UNICEF, this TAP project, where, again, instead of doing comms, they say, right, if what we need to do is raise money for UNICEF, and they need that money to pay for water in their region, when businessmen are out for lunch, we'll partner with 10,000 restaurants, and when people have their water at the table and they pay for it, we're going to have the bottom of the receipt. We're going to say, do you mind transferring 6% of basically the price you paid for the still water, do you mind transferring that over to UNICEF? And I just think that's brilliant because, again, that's not just comms. You have to go, right, we've got to find a partner for this. Who's going to phone up and sort that out? And I think that's our job. So, I don't know, I can't tell you, this is all very personal things and everyone's got their own strengths, but I think increasingly we're going to have to say, right, it's up to us to manage our own careers because the agency isn't going to do it for us. So say how you're going to add value to the account, then go and do it. Write business plans rather than comms plans and get commercial, spend loads of time in the client office and don't leave it to the account man, if that's what you want to do. I think the final thing, which is where I got to, is this is a very personal thing. I can't tell anyone what to do, but I'm a massive believer in just doing stuff you love. And if you're really passionate about stuff in this industry, you can make money out of it. So the guy in the middle is a guy called John Ghazi, who's a media planner. He's a bit unsatisfied and unfulfilled by what he does, so he started this thing called OMD Ventures because he loves startups, and he's going to run a business out of that. I know someone in this room who was thinking about starting up a cultural trends business. There's a girl called Sophie there who set up Off-On, you might have heard of it from the APG, which is essentially a social enterprise project. She could have set that up within Wieden & Kennedy. She actually went off to go and work for the Nike Foundation. But again, there was that process of challenging what she was doing and working out what fulfilled her and how she could add value in life. Guy here, Simon Summerscales, ridiculously pixelated. He left the industry altogether and he went and set up his own business. So, look, it's a provocative talk. It's probably because I'm not a very good planner, because I don't understand all the sort of, words and concepts as much as perhaps I should. But this is the question that I asked myself when I worked out that I'm really interested in business transformation, actually doing something that really fulfills me. The most important thing I did was I worked out my 10 values. I worked out the things that really, really mattered to me, and I've tried to work out what I then do next. And so what I'm doing next is I'm looking after the Saatchi's investment interests, looking at young tech companies, and also starting up a tech accelerator for the marketing and tech community. Because what I realised was that I love the energy of startup communities, and it sort of made me feel alive again. So I worked out what transformed fulfilment and a job for me, and went and did it. So I'd encourage you all to think about what you actually produce, because the money is flowing out of this game, and I think we've all got to ask ourselves some difficult questions. But like I say, it's up to you, and I feel really positive about the amount of opportunity out there and what you can do to transform your clients' businesses. Thanks.
So thank you to Google for hosting us. You've gone too early on the applause. Now you're going to need to applaud every time I mention someone. So I'll let you off. Just applaud one more time after I do the others. So thank you, Flamingo, for their continued support. And thank you for Alex, Tracy and David. And thank you for your questions.